Governor, is your time between here and Iowa? There's been a sort of a bad rap on you by some that you're going to be Iowa-centric and not given New Hampshire the short shrift.
I think that's a narrative pushed by other campaigns. We've been here, my recollection is 7 different days already this year. I just became a candidate on Monday, and so I'm spending time here. I'll be here next weekend. I think people should look going ahead now as a candidate and look at my time here. And again, I've said, as I've been here before, for me, New Hampshire's a lot like major portions of my state in Wisconsin, both demographically and geographically. So we feel a kinship, and we think today's efforts here at Joey's Diners point out that there's a real interest.
Governor, is the large number of Republican candidates an advantage or disadvantage for you?
Well, I think it's a good thing overall. I think it shows that Republicans are enthusiastic about having a new president. I think the crop of candidates is probably the best we've had since 1980. So I think there's a lot of enthusiasm in America that people, we're optimistic. We're not.
You don't think there's too many?
No, I think in the end, I think voters here in New Hampshire take their job seriously, first in the nation primary. I think other voters take the process seriously. I think they're going to look at each of the candidates, spend the time really looking at not just what they say, but what they've done. What makes us unique is there are fighters who've yet to win those fights. There are winners who've yet to take on the big fights. We've done both. When people look at our record and they say, if I'm going to make promises about being president, I can actually deliver on them because I've delivered in probably the most difficult of circumstances over the last 4 years in the country.
Governor, you have not been shy about weighing in on cultural hot-button issues. Abortion, gay marriage, the Boy Scouts lifting their ban on gay scoutmasters. A lot of people think that issues like that are going to be losers for the GOP in 2016. What do you think?
Well, those aren't what I'm running on. It's just the unique thing that people are surprised about is I actually answer questions. A lot of politicians like to hide behind their issues. I answer questions, but I think people have seen it in Wisconsin. I carried not only 96% of the Republican votes in Wisconsin in the last three elections, I carried independents by 11, almost 12 points. And that's because people know I don't just talk about, I fight and win on economic and fiscal issues. I'm a social conservative as well, but my primary reputation comes from my work on economic and fiscal issues as president. That's where I'd focus in on. To me, I'm applying for a job. And when you apply for the job, you tell people all sorts of answers to any questions that your potential employers ask. But in the end, you also focus in on what are you going to accomplish, what are your top priorities. And for me, it's the three things I mentioned. It's talking about reform, transferring power from Washington into the hands of the hardworking taxpayers in states like New Hampshire and others across the country. It's about building a better economy where everybody can live their piece of the dream. That's growth. And it's about protecting our children and grandchildren from radical Islamic terrorism and other threats around the world. That's true safety. So we're going to talk about reform, growth, and safety throughout this campaign. And like I said, it's a little unusual. Took a while for my media press corps in Wisconsin to get used to the fact that I actually answer questions and speak the truth. And I'm going to keep doing that here and across the country.
Governor, do you think that Trump? Sure. Governor, do you think?
You can ask the next one, but let me just weird question. I apologize to the national media, but how many of you are from New Hampshire? Just I'm going to try. I'm going to try and ask a few questions or answer a few questions, folks from New Hampshire.
Sure. Well, you had mentioned about answering questions. Do you plan town hall meetings when, and also, as it related to that, when you were inside, there was a guy who was doing retail politics with you. He said he was going to bring you some Lebanese baklava later today. Assuming he does, you're going to try some.
Oh, we'll try just about anything. We've had fun along the way. I love to eat my way around America. I love to ride my way too, which is why I'm going to come back next week on a Harley. But I've done some town halls already in the past. I've done some in front of the media. I've done others at events. Again, I think this is the 6th or 7th day since the beginning of the year that we've been here. I think that's pretty consistent with a lot of other national candidates, but we'll keep coming back a lot. And we're working with different places and different formats. Right now, next stop in Manchester, I'm doing in studio a town hall meeting over at one of the TV stations there, and we'll continue to do that. Just this week, it's the announcement week. We're really doing rallies across the country, and then we'll keep coming back to New Hampshire as part of the tradition here and do town halls. Just like I did a gazillion town hall meetings in the 3 times I ran for governor in the state of Wisconsin.
Governor, do you think that Trump's rhetoric is hurting the GOP, given the Univision poll that shows 90% of Hispanic voters have heard his comments and 80% of those are offended by them?
Well, Donald Trump can speak for himself, and I'm not going to put words in the mouth of any candidate, him or anybody else out there. As I mentioned, I'm going to tell people what I'm for, and I think the more people hear that, and I think they're tired of hearing candidates lash out at other candidates, particularly in the primary process. So I'm going to talk to people about what I'm for, how I think when it comes to voters, just in general, be they Hispanic or anything else, most voters care about a more free and prosperous country. They care about keeping our children safe. They care about transferring power from Washington back into the states and ultimately to the hardworking people of this country.
Governor, if you and Hillary Clinton is the final nominees, how big will public sector unions be an essential message in that campaign?
Well, for us, again, I'm not, again, this is maybe unique for some covering this stuff, but I'm going to talk about the same things in the primary I'm going to talk about in the general election. I'm going to talk about reform, growth, and safety. I'm going to talk about it through the New Hampshire primary. I'm going to talk about it beyond that. I'm going to talk about when
weak spot for her?
Oh, on those issues? I mean, I think the biggest weak spot is that what makes us a great candidate against Hillary Clinton is three simple things. I'm a new, fresh face. She's a candidate of the past. I'm about as anti-Washington as you can get. She embodies everything that's wrong with Washington, and I've actually gotten something done. I've gotten real things done in a tough state. I think it's hard. You'd be hard-pressed to even find supporters of her who could tell you that she's done much more than accumulate a lot of frequent flyer miles traveling around the world. But as Secretary of the State, think about this. As Secretary of the State, I think it would be hard to argue that the places she's been involved with over the first 4 years of President Obama's tenure aren't more messed up today than they were before she and the President took office. I think if people look at that, they want new, fresh leadership. If they want big, bold ideas from outside of Washington, if they want someone who can provide leadership that actually gets things done, I'm the best contrast to Hillary Clinton going forward.
Governor, were you more pleased to see that